Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the AM Report for Apps News, the network of now. I am Alex Mahajer. I am your host, and I'm very, very excited to be here with you all Monday, November 23rd. And my God, will 2020 just end, please? What a dumb time to be alive. But here we are, November 23rd, and it's Monday. So pleased to have you all with me this morning. In just a few moments, I'll be joined by Stephen Ross. He's going to tell us about his story of leaving QAnon, a former QAnon believer. He's going to talk about how he got in and how he got out and his work now to help people escape QAnon and its grip. So really excited he'll be joining us this morning on the AM Report, and we'll cover the morning's headlines and all this and more. We'll see you in just a sec. Good morning, everybody. All right. So in just a few moments, I'll be joined by Stephen Ross to talk about QAnon, how he got in, how he got out. And if you're watching this on the HAPS platform or website and you're enjoying it, click the award button. Let us know you're enjoying it. Or if you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, Periscope, leave us a comment, bat around with us, and let us know what you're thinking. And we'll engage with you live on air. But first, this morning's headlines. Lots to cover this morning. President-elect Joe Biden will announce his first cabinet picks this Tuesday, according to reports, with the early reports suggesting that former Deputy Secretary of State Tony Blinken will be promoted to the nation's highest diplomatic office. Blinken was a Deputy Secretary of State in the Obama administration. He's considered a foreign policy expert, and he's very trusted. So many Democrats are celebrating the decision as being a great choice on the international stage. A small number of Republicans are beginning to call on Donald Trump to begin the transition, including former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, Senators Lisa Murkowski, Lamar Alexander, Pat Toomey, and Kevin Cramer. I'll note Chris Christie has now publicly called Trump's legal team an embarrassment on national television. And there are some reports, according to Bob Woodward, that Republicans privately are expressing a great deal of contempt for the president and his handling of the presidency and the transition. A Pennsylvania federal judge has dismissed a lawsuit by Trump's lawyers headed by Rudy Giuliani that sought to invalidate millions of votes as the campaign petitions for another recount in Georgia. I'll note that Trump's legal efforts to overturn the election have now netted 34 losses or more as of this reporting in federal and state courts. So the country is experiencing an exponential increase in confirmed COVID-19 cases nationwide, with the national death toll approaching 260,000 with more than 12.3 million cases. I'll note that this morning we learned that Oxford University now has a vaccine as well that is 90% effective. And so Pfizer, Moderna, and Oxford, all three have vaccines. So just wear a mask, people. We're at the end here. So New Jersey Governor Bill Pascrell has filed a complaint with the New York bar, calling for Rudy Giuliani to be disbarred, citing fraud and deceit in his recent legal efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Also, the judges in these cases are reading Mr. Giuliani for filth, and the entire legal construct and argument of these cases is not boding well with federal and state judges. So that's the headlines this morning. And right now, I'd like to welcome Stephen Ross to the program. Stephen Ross, he's a former QAnon believer who got out, and now he's working to help people who have believed these conspiracy theories leave it. And I'm really interested in having you on this morning. Good morning, Stephen. How are you?
I'm really good. How are you? Thank you.
Good to see you. So I was really interested in having you on. I read about you I think it was the New York Daily News, and I think the effect of conspiracist thinking and conspiracy thinking and misinformation, generally speaking, has had a very outsized impact on politics and the way our country's going. And it didn't always have a name, which is something that you have said. But now it's got a name, and it's QAnon. Can you talk to me a little bit about what is QAnon in terms of what is it that people believe? What are the beliefs of QAnon that are being the prime misinformation points that are being sort of drawing people in?
So at this point, I mean, it's pretty much gotten to, it's everyone against Trump. It didn't used to be that way, but I feel like, I mean, people I'm talking to now who are still in it, they're starting to turn on Rudy. They're starting to turn on people. So I think the only person left is Trump. I think that's what it has been this whole time, is to make you believe that eventually that Trump, was going to be the savior. I am the chosen one, as he said one time. And that's what, I mean, he was playing off of that. I feel like he was playing into that. But the way I got sucked in was, algorithms on the internet. It's like anxiety porn or something. It's just, it gets worse and worse, and you start finding out all of these things about our government and that are just flat out not true. And if I had really, really researched, then I would be able to realize, I would have found out, well, maybe this doesn't make so much sense. Maybe this is illogical. But the way the conspiracies are, they kind of, it's just you get hooked to the next one before you even finish looking at this one. It's just a constant moving around. And in my own daily life, I was falling into a Christian cult. It was not an organized cult. It was just this cultish mentality of, if you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to hell, and everyone's going to burn except for a couple of the chosen ones, and stuff like that. But it went along with a lot of the conspiracies. And the thing is a lot of the conspiracies, there's real facts in there, and there's real life events in there, and they pair it with a bunch of fantasy, and it became really convincing when the only thing you're doing is doom scrolling, and you're not going to a library and being like, well, let me see if that actually happened. And
I think an interesting point that I'm hearing you say is that it begins with more basic beliefs, and they take actually existing things that have happened that seem dishonest about the government. Things like the FBI spied on John Lennon, which is true, that did happen. So that's bad, right? And they'll get you in with that, and then start to filter in already existing actual facts with things that are more outrageous, and take people down a path of thinking that eventually gets more and more nonsensical and fantastical. And at the peak of it, Stephen, you believed that Lady Gaga and Hillary Clinton were eating babies,
right? That's it's crazy to think, right? It's just such a weird thing to say. When Nancy's like, "Are you sure I can use this title?" and I was like, "Yeah, it's fine." I mean, it's the truth. I mean, I wasn't sitting there thinking about the actual them, sitting there going nom nom nom. But there was this artist, Marina Abramovich, held an event in Hollywood. It was a spirit cooking event, and it was like this, I think, this cathartic event for celebrities to kind of face death and get over trying to be youthful forever. So she had a bunch of cakes that looked like people, and all these celebrities are eating, cakes that look like dead people, and they're very realistic. So I think that was the thing that I'm sure that kind of, I saw those pictures, I saw Gaga with a spoon in someone's stomach. And I feel like at a certain point, I even forgot about those pictures and that thing. It had I was just reading stuff. And then that subconsciously was justifying what I was thinking. But yeah, I mean, I was a little monster. In 2009, I met Gaga. I went to my mom and we'd gone to her concert. She's an amazing, lovely human being who couldn't hurt a fly. And, but at a certain point, gave up everything I loved. You know, I stopped listening to music. I stopped listening to anyone, and that's it. The conspiracies, they try to push you away from artists, and they try to push you away from intellectuals, because they're dangerous.
Wow.
Because they can like get you out of it. You know, they can be like, wow, that stuff's crazy.
It sounds a lot like how cults will isolate people from influences in their lives that might have an impact on preventing them from going fully into it, or subscribing to some of its more outrageous tenets. And then the more that you become isolated from those positive influences, and I was also at that Gaga concert in 2009. So I think I think what I'm hearing say is like the continued pattern of isolationism allows for the more outrageous stuff to really permeate, and people really start to believe it, and then it becomes like pack mentality thinking that just gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
And you don't have the ability to step outside of yourself and look at it objectively because you're in it. And so I can appreciate how it might be hard for people on the outside to understand how it could get that way.
Right.
But I do have a question from a viewer that I wanted to pose to you. Where did you go? Oh gosh. All right. The question was something like, do you think that having an evangelical background or a religious background? Oh, here we go. It's asking, the user is asking if you've ever been involved in any other cults throughout your life. I know that you haven't, but I think they're trying to understand how this could happen. Also, do you lean towards evangelical thoughts or beliefs which may have been have made this transition easier? Asks Apprehensive Fly.
Apprehensive Fly. Apprehensive Fly. Thank you for landing on my. I think. Sorry. Now I forgot the question because I was trying to be funny. No.
You can't do both. You can't be funny and thoughtful.
Right. So I had an apartment fire in Massachusetts. That's why I ended up moving from Massachusetts to Pennsylvania. I lost everything. And my boyfriend at the time, I ended up moving to Pennsylvania with him and his family. And his cousins, they weren't in a cult, but their church was very cult-like. And so I was living in Pennsylvania, and slowly his cousins, were trying to separate Austin and I from each other. Like basically tell us like homosexuality is bad. Like you two aren't bad, but you can't be together. God doesn't want you together, and stuff like that. And they're telling us, what God wants for us, and yada yada. And eventually, after going to church together and stuff, I remember I was actually singing at a church, and they waited like probably about 4 months that I was singing there to tell me that I needed to become straight if I wanted to keep singing for them. It wasn't that they didn't phrase it like that. I don't know what they said. Denounce my sexuality. I'm not sure. So that was what I was going through in life. Like they were. It wasn't like a cult. Like it was. I mean, there was a Catholic church. There was a non-denominational church. It was actually a non-denominational church, a really like hipster church with like lights and music and fog machines that told me that like I was, I needed to change. I feel like the church at the time, like there was a First Presbyterian church that I was going to. They, I think, were kind of catching on to the fact that Austin and I were looking at weird stuff. Because Austin and I were looking at this stuff together. My ex and I, we were like, just bouncing off of each other. It was like a feedback loop of conspiracies, and he was really on fire for God, as you could say. So it was just like, yeah. But it was a really depressing time for me. And eventually he broke up with me. He now has 2 kids with a wife. He got, oh yeah, like he broke up with me at 21 years old and turned around and got a girl pregnant. And the thing is, it's just like it's shocked the whole family. They don't know what's wrong with him. I mean, it's been a lot. He's completely cut off from their family, so he's still. But I don't think I have a hard time he'd be believing in the QAnon stuff now. I have a hard time. I feel like now it's so aggressive and so disgusting that it's hard to even look at for more than you can't. And I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. I'd hope I kind of answer your question. It softened me up for this stuff for sure. It helped justify the Earth being flat, for one. Like that flat Earth theory. I don't know if Q still like deals with that, but that was really heavy online. And the fact that me, a science nerd, and I loved Mars, the fact that I started to really in my like. I don't know if I ever believed it deep down, but it was enough to start like ruining my life and my mental health. Because I was just like, why the F does anything matter if I've been, lied to my whole life and the Earth is actually flat and we're all just going to go up in flames in 5 years? Like, which we might.
Steven,
anyway.
We've got a couple user comments, and a famous jester never thought a cult like MAGA and Q would sweep so strongly through America. And I think that's why it's really important to hear about your story, to hear about how easy it is. And Santa Clarita was saying, as you were telling your story about the church, just how cruel it was. So I agree, really, really cruel. And so at the height of this, you were pretty depressed, and it took you to a pretty low place. And I was reading this incredible conspiracy chart by Abby Richards on your website, Debunk QAnon, that you started with your partner. And it talks about the progression of the conspiracy theories. Like it starts with stuff that's real, like COINTELPRO, the NSA's mass surveillance techniques, and then it starts to get more it starts to enter the realm of the questions that we have about things that we don't have answers to, like UFOs, Jeffrey Epstein's death, like what exactly happened there. It's starting to enter that territory where there's no evidence, or we're not sure, but we have questions. And then it starts to get more pervasive. Science denial is the next step. Crop circles, the Loch Ness monster, Elvis still being alive, stuff that's innocuous, but that there's no evidence of. And then it starts to get into stuff that's dangerous to us and others, like anti-vaxxer theories, global warming is a hoax, COVID-19 was made in a lab. And then in the final step, it's pretty much detached from reality completely. It can lead to violence, calls for violence. That includes QAnon, the deep state, New World Order, flat earth thinking, satanic cults, hollow earth, Pizzagate, Holocaust denial, the Illuminati, that Sandy Hook was faked. That's really like the apex of this. So it takes you through a progression. And at the apex of this, you were pretty depressed and pretty low. So can you talk to us a little bit about how it is that you finally were able to break free from this and start the path of, I want to call it, I don't know if this is an accurate characterization, but would you call it a path of recovery?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Really? So I don't know what would have happened to me, honestly, if I didn't have my parents, the parents that I do, because
that makes me cry.
Yeah, because I was in a very bad place in Pennsylvania. I was because Austin and I had broken up because we can't be gay anymore. So I was in this log cabin all by myself, and I was really depressed. It was random that it's a log cabin, but it was this abandoned property pretty much in the middle of nowhere. And so I was in the middle of nowhere and just stewing, with all these terrible negative thoughts. But my parents had come out to visit me over the summer and of 2017. So this is like early summer, and they had a camper. They parked it in my front yard, and I remember the look on my mom's face when she saw me. Just like it was like, uh-oh, it's not. This doesn't look like you. But we hung out that for a week that week, and I was just really not myself. You know, I didn't have anything that I wanted to talk about, because everything, you know, in my opinion, the way I saw it, the world was pointless. Everything's pointless, and everyone's evil. And, you know, just like, and I could never help everyone, you know, see that or believe that. So then, like, there was just no point, and I should just continue to live in this abandoned log cabin in the middle of nowhere. But they basically gently forced me to move to Texas. So my sister was living in Austin, Texas, and she had broken up with her boyfriend, and she needed a roommate to afford the place she was at. And so I ended up moving down here and moving in with her, and I got a job at Torchy's Tacos. If you're from Texas, you'll know Torchy's. And I was just working and meeting a lot of really nice people. Austin, Texas is a very friendly place. Where I was living in Pennsylvania, Montgomery County is extremely racist and aggressive. It's like home to the KKK, like of Pennsylvania. So it was I was living in a town called Pottstown. That was a dark time. Pennsylvania was, that area of Pennsylvania was dark. A lot of people were falling into the conspiracies. Like, I would talk to people at bars, and it would be casual, like, oh yeah, George Soros, oh yeah. But so not get too distracted. I got to Texas, and I got distracted by work and by my sister. I hadn't seen her physically in, I think, a little over 5 years. Just because she was in Texas and I was in Massachusetts and then Pennsylvania. But I was still really depressed, though. And even up until 2020, you know, I started dating Cody February of 2019. And when I met him, I remember I was still like, there was a couple of conspiracies that I was still believing in. But we were just always talking about something else or doing something else. So we never got into politics or anything like that. But then when the primaries happened, and then all the Democrats running for president, and all the political noise that started happening again, I started started paying attention to that. And I think that's like, and then having Cody next to me, who's, you know, real smart guy and definitely not going to get pulled into a cult anytime soon, to have him there with me, just like acknowledging these people as like human beings and stuff. Like, I think that was like a first step, is just being around people who aren't demonizing everyone. But then honestly, it wasn't until, so I was on Twitter, and I saw someone kind of not bullying, but kind of being hard on like QAnon people. Like, how can they believe in this stuff? They must just be so stupid. And I was like, hey, I mean, I'm not the smartest person, but I'm also not stupid. I think I was just gullible, naive. And I kind of explained it a little bit. And that's how Nancy Dillon, the reporter from the New York Daily News, found me. She must have been scanning Twitter. And so I talked to Nancy over the course of 3 days. And I mean, I didn't know when I had posted that on Twitter and I said QAnon, I had used the word QAnon because that's like, I'm like, that's clearly what all this stuff is. George Soros, Pizzagate, Flat Earth. That's all the stuff I was believing in. And so I made that post, but talking to her over the course of 3 days, that's kind of what unraveled everything. That was like me, and which she's a reporter, but she was like a therapist at that point. Like, it was Cody has been my therapist for the past. Don't use your partner or significant other as your therapist. Just saying. Go get an actual therapist. It'd probably work out much better. We're doing great, but it's been rough for him because I was just unraveling mentally. But yeah, like you have to. Oh, no, I lost audio. Can you type to me? You can still hear me. Okay.
We can call it deprogramming. I think, and no, it's going to take it's going to take a massive deprogramming. And thank you for sharing your story. Santa Clarita says we hear you. Programming and so some support from viewers. QAnon. Carmen Adams is asking, does QAnon believe that the virus is fake?
See, that's it's fake when it needs to be fake, and it's real when it needs to be real. That's what I was wondering, like talking to one of the people I'm going back and forth with in email right now, is I'm like, so he believes it's real. So that's good. And I told him, I was like, I was putting it in his terms. I was like, so I believe Jesus is back, and what would he do? He would ask us to love God and love thy neighbor. And if we want to love thy neighbor right now, wear thine mask and don't kill thy neighbor. I think that's, I don't know. So
pretty common sensey type stuff.
Right. But the thing is, even like if they believe in what they believe in, if they believe, I think that somewhere Christianity is in there. But if they believe that, you know, this is the Great Awakening and Jesus is coming back and is going to get rid of all the pedophiles, like, I don't know. I feel like you should believe in all the other stuff that the Bible says too, which is love thy neighbor. And I don't know. We could do a lot more of that and stop arguing over Loch Ness monsters.
Right. Stephen, I want to thank you for joining the program and telling your story. I think this is a, you know, I think very intelligent people who might otherwise be very affluent or members of society, contributing to members of society, productive members of society get sucked into this. And I think it preys on people's vulnerabilities. And I think your story is one that has happened to many people. And I'm really grateful that you were able to get out and had the resources. And what I'm hearing you say is that the answer was connection. Connection to other people was what began you down the path. And then it was up to you to start asking the questions and deprogramming and really at the end of the day, breaking free from anything that has power over us involves connection to others and doing the work ourselves. So I think it is, you deserve huge commendation and support for going through this and then desiring to help others. I really commend you for that. I think it's really touching, and I really appreciate you coming on the program. Mark Goldman says, very interesting to hear your story. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining, Mark. And so, Stephen, you want to help others. Tell us where people can find you if they have questions for you or want to bat around with you about QAnon.
So I have the website, but I'm at Steneros on everything, which I can just type that down there, right?
You can type it in the comments. And people will see.
So Stephen Neil Ross is my email. Stephen.neil.ross, and Neil is spelled Neil. I have 3 first names. Stephen Neil Ross. But yeah, Stephen Neil Ross at Gmail. That's my email to get a hold of me as fast as possible, because sometimes the QAnon email can be frightening for me to go into. So yeah. It's just like, because it gets, there's a lot of submissions usually.
All right. So this has been Stephen Ross. Thank you so much, Stephen, for joining the program. Please take care. Appreciate your time. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Alex. Bye.
Bye. This has been the AM Report with Alex Mahaja for Haps News, the network of Now. We are live every weekday morning at 7:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Eastern, with all of your quick political news and headlines to get your day started right. If you like this journalism, if you like this content, please consider sponsoring it by buying me a cup of coffee or subscribing. You can do that at haps.tv/@Alex. Or if you're already on the Haps platform or website, you can just click the award button. Let us know you enjoyed the broadcast. It'll pop up right here. And we really, really appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Thanks so much for joining, and have a fantastic Monday. Thanks, everybody.